Caged: Citizens Against Enforced Disappearances.
18 weeks ago, on the 15th of April 2022, Suhakam, the Human Rights Commission of Malaysia, announced the result of its investigation into the disappearances of pastors Joshua Hilmi and Ruth Sitipu, a married couple. They were last seen or heard from on the 30th of November 2016, just 1 week after Amri Chebbat was abducted on the 24th of November 2016. Soon thereafter, Pastor Raymond Koh was abducted on the 13th of February 2017. A video of Raymond's abduction went viral. It had been assembled with clips from home security CCTV cameras overlooking the street from which Raymond was abducted. The video showed Raymond had been abducted by a team of professionally trained persons. The police said they had no leads. People became very alarmed. The abductions, for there were eyewitnesses who testified that Amri had been abducted in an operation very similar to the abduction of Raymond, were members of minority religious groups. Amri was a Shiite Muslim in a state where Shiites are frequently targeted by Sunni Muslims. The 4 victims had been praised by many. People provided financial support for the activities carried out by the victims. Each victim was a member of a minority religious group. The victims' activities raised the status of the religious groups they belonged to. As a result, they fell into the category of threats to national security, according to the then Deputy Commissioner of Police, Dato' Awaluddin Jadid. Jadid was Deputy Director of E2, the Social Extremism Division of the Special Branch of the Royal Malaysian Police. Awaluddin urged the public to act against such persons. He said the public must act, since the police could no longer do so. He said the police could not act because the Internal Security Act had been abolished. Awaluddin said all that in a speech he made to a Sunni Muslim audience 2 weeks before Amri was abducted. An earlier inquiry by Suhakam learned that the special branch had been observing Amri, that Awaluddin had discussed Amri with Dr. Mazhar, the Mufti of Perlis, and that Awaluddin had discussed similar threats with Muftis nationwide. It was against that background that Suhakam began its public hearings into the disappearance of Joshua and Ruth. There were 22 days of public hearings. There was evidence from 26 witnesses. There were 126 exhibits. Suhakam used its statutory powers to compel many police officers to appear before it to give evidence. The investigation was conducted by a panel of 3 Suhakam commissioners, Dr. Madeline Burma and Mr. Gerald Joseph and Datuk Seri Hishamuddin Yunus. Datuk Hishamuddin, a former judge of the Court of Appeal, served as chairman. On the 15th of April 2022, Datuk Hishamuddin read out the findings of the panel. In this clip, watch for the words unanimous, enforced disappearances, and involuntary disappearances.
The panel is of the unanimous view that Joshua Hilmi and Ruth Sitipu are victims of enforced disappearances as defined in Article 2 of the Convention ICPPED, as well as defined by customary international law. The disappearances of Joshua Hilmi and Ruth Sitipu are cases of involuntary disappearances in breach of the ordinary criminal law, civil law, and applicable human rights law.
In this clip, watch for the words sloppy and tardy.
It is the finding of the panel from the evidence adduced before it, in particular, sloppy and tardy police investigation. There is a refusal on the part of the Royal Malaysia Police to acknowledge the deprivation of liberty of Joshua Hilmi and Ruth Sitipu. and such refusal to acknowledge has placed them outside the protection of the law.
In this clip, watch for the words lackadaisical and highly unsatisfactory.
This also reflected in the lackadaisical investigation by Sergeant Ahmad Sibi. This was the panel's finding that the highly unsatisfactory conduct and shortcomings of the Royal Malaysian Police in investigating the disappearance of Joshua Helmi and Ruth Sitipu had contributed to the acquiescence of the state in the abduction of the couple.
Please join me in calling on Inspector General of Police Akril Sani, Home Minister Hamzah Zainuddin, and de facto Law Minister Wan Junaidi to act honorably. Please join me in calling them to take bold actions to clear the charge sheets against them and against all Malaysians. Please join me by sharing the stories of Amri, Raymond, Joshua, and Ruth.
If you agree, please like, subscribe, share.